get started on the meeting. Call the meeting to order. This is the final budget meeting. Anita, do you want to go ahead?
Absolutely, yeah. It's kind of a workup to a final budget. Our final budget is due October 10th. Um, but I think after the preliminary set, we've kind of gotten things nailed down pretty good. Few things that I've found since we met about that is that Blue Cross, our rates were increased actually by 7.7% instead of the 3 that were calculated into the wage sheet. So that works out to be like about $1,800. I don't know if it would be something you guys would want to consider. You know, we did decrease that COVID transfer down to 20,000. Maybe just do the 22 into that, or if you want me to actually put the wages into their separate category with those health insurance increases, that would be the other option. If that makes sense. Does that make sense to everybody?
It does. I guess just
I didn't change it in the numbers. I didn't. I give you, that's why I said it's a workup to the final. I might actually have to look at it one final term again. You know what I mean?
when's it due, the budget itself?
October 10th.
Okay.
So we have time.
And we pay 100% of a single, correct?
Yes.
In like a family or an employee plus one, is it like a
Yep.
70?
So I guess I would like to start with that on getting your guys' ideas on, you know, how you'd maybe like to cover that overage or underage that really was calculated in. So we can make those changes.
Technically, this is a public hearing for the budget, so I see 2 people in the audience that might have questions on what they received from Ward County as far as the increase, so I think they should be allowed to speak as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, you got anything?
I just wanted, it was just a short question, but 8.75% increase, doesn't that seem a little bit expensive?
Yes, and here,
I haven't heard of anybody else getting 8.something raises, but I know it.
here's the other announcement I'd like to make too. With the worksheet, discovered there was a formula that didn't carry, as well as the transfers not included. So it actually brings our levied amount down from 360 down to let me see, where is my note sheet? Come on, 323, I believe it was.
You're talking about mills?
Yes, I'm talking about mills. Because on the final page, you will see, let's see, page 6. If you look at page 6, you'll see that your transfers in and transfers out were recorded as 0, which are not true. There was transfers in. And so by putting those transfers.
Where are you finding page 6?
Page 6 in the budget packet I gave you.
They're not numbered, but
They're
it's
not
the
numbered.
last page of the general fund.
Oh, did it not show up numbered?
No.
Okay, sorry guys. It is general fund expenditures. working on down from building to elections, advertising, police department, municipal court, and then the final appropriation shows your balances. I can show each side.
I got it right here.
Okay, great. Did you find it, Steve?
Nope.
Okay, let me show you.
It's actually like really close to the front, like 3 or 4 pages in. It's Schedule
I
B.
didn't realize they didn't print with numbers on
So
the
where
bottom. Mine
is
have
the levy?
So not enterprise.
What heading are you under?
It says City of Surrey Schedule B Annual Budget for the year end, 100 General Fund.
General fund, general fund.
Right here. Okay,
Oh.
that is your basic final numbers for your general fund. I don't know if you wanna look. It shows your balance as of January 1st for the years, but then your transfers in weren't recorded. And there were transfers in, so it actually changes this levy amount. It changes it, I wrote it down before I came, down from 361 as highlighted, coming into this down to 323. So there won't be that initial 8% increase.
So basically, I think with that information, it's actually either going down or staying very close to the
Very
same.
close to the same as what was recorded last year. If
What were
not,
the general fund mills last year?
I'd have to go make sure.
That's fine, you don't need to look.
Yeah, they levied 355.
Last
It
year?
would actually bring it down from
So
last
it'd be
year.
lower than what it was last
Like
year. It goes to
30,000.
Yeah.
323.
Well, technically, if you look at the, it's actually 323, 335 that for property taxes last year. So if that's anywhere close, I'm assuming it's just going to be very close to the same. So that 8.75, you can, if we keep it exactly how we have it right now, will be a wash.
So yes, I apologize.
absolutely.
Seems like there's a lot of increases there, except for the school, and like, the school probably needs it as much more than anybody.
Right.
Actually, the school was less. And I'm like, it seems like right here. I know you guys don't like this, I'll do it, it's the county, right?
Yep.
You know, so I know it's all just an estimate, kind of, but.
Right. We don't want to raise your taxes if we don't have to.
Well, I'm sure none of us do. I know I can understand, you know, the extra little increase now and then, okay, but that seems like an awful big increase at one time.
Right. So it was good to actually work through it more and find out that those
It's like
things
the
were
more you
missed.
do it, the more stuff you see, isn't it?
Uh-huh. The more you work through it, the more things you catch. So that'll be a change than what came out in announced from the county.
The only other thing I had in the general fund was, I know we talked about city hall, so we paid off the north building, and then it was talked to move that into city hall capital improvements. I just think without a plan, that's really not fair to taxpayers either. So either we need to come up with some sort of plan to spend that $10,000 or drop it down to, just the normal amount.
Yeah, but that'd be the same as if we're like levying for a police car. We just put so much away.
So then it needs to be changed to like a transfer
So
out
that was
into-
actually in the city hall capital improvement line, which is on that same page that we were just looking at. You guys had me up it to 10 grand that Jenny's talking about. But if we don't actually have a plan, say, what are we using that for? It's hard to ask the taxpayers to be a part of paying for something we're not sure of.
Yeah, but I mean, it's whether it's a remodel or a rebuild. I mean, why would we want to just tax them 250,000?
I agree. I'm like, why not just save it? Just get it in there and.
Well, see, your budget is not
Yeah.
getting it in there. Your budget is a projected estimate of what could happen, right? If you actually want to get it in there, I would think that you'd want to actually create a fund or a savings account for building improvements. That's my personal opinion.
And the only reason I brought it up is because in 2020, we spent $1,875, and then so far this year, it's budgeted for 7,500, but no money has been spent. So to take an additional $10,000 onto that 7,500 and without a plan, I just think is,
Well, it's not going from the 75 to the 10. That's what was spent then, the 7,500.
The
there's,
7,500 wasn't spent.
Oh, that
There's
was
no
what was
money spent.
It was
budgeted.
what was idealized
2021.
to spend, but there was no plan. So to keep asking, for a mill on that,
I mean, we're getting that ARPA money, which should be around what, $240,000, and then prairie dog money should end up around $400,000, I would assume, when it's all said and done. Still $100,000 left in the COVID relief fund. I just think that there's plenty of money coming from elsewhere, like federal and state funding, that we wouldn't need to do that. I mean, if there's a project that you wanted this year, we have $7,500 left to spend this year.
like what would we have in mind to do,
I would have nothing in mind for $7,500.
Right, or even 10 grand, what would you do?
Not a thing. I would carry it over and carry it over until we actually had
But
money
you
to.
can't carry
do
it over.
Well, if you
See-
put it in a fund, like I said, it's no different than a cop car or a truck or whatever.
Then we would put it in a fund.
Then I
not
think we need to
actually
put it in a
budget-
fund.
Budget,
Then I think it has to go into a fund.
okay. Okay, cool. You want to make a motion to
Yep, if that's what I need to do.
move to create a building capital improvement fund?
Correct.
Okay, awesome.
And I guess I would move that 7,500 that is just sitting there that we didn't spend. I guess I would move that in there today. And then I'd levy another 10 grand for tomorrow.
Well, and we are looking at next year's budget, right? So I don't think you'd want to actually create it till 2022.
Well, whatever.
Right?
I mean,
But then you could
But
take,
you can transfer it over, right?
you could take your 7,500, and put, and start that. Or what do you thought? What do you think on that, Jenny? You think you'd wait or would you do it now?
No, you would definitely wait till
You
the
would
end of the
wait,
year.
wait. So you could remove this, put this down to whatever, 1,500 or whatever the normal is for city hall, whatever. But you could create a building improvement fund as of the new year with a,
as long as it doesn't get spent.
yeah, it'd be like a savings type thing.
Yep, then
You'd rather do that than actually budget for something that maybe isn't gonna happen. Cause it's not gonna carry over.
because it's budgeted, you can't
Because
carry it
it's
over.
budgeted, you're levying the taxpayers to do something that you're not sure of what you're doing.
Then how can you do a cop car? What's
So
the
You
difference?
create a fund.
Okay, as
Yep.
long as we're creating a fund.
Yep. Capital, so we're gonna create a capital, a building improvement fund?
Yeah, let's call it that.
Okay, awesome.
I'll second Steve's motion.
We have
As, uh,
we have a
new
motion on the
council-
floor to create a building improvement fund and a second by Twyla.
So the new year, starting it with a $7,500 balance?
Yep, just since that's what's sitting in there that we didn't use.
Okay, that makes great sense.
Any further comment?
It would just be what's ever left over at the end of the year that would get transferred into there.
With a,
Let's say that City Hall,
unspent, year-end balance, right?
yeah, let's say City Hall flooded and we needed to use $2,500 of that.
That makes great sense.
And then the budget going forward will be the 10,000.
The budget going forward, what would you guys, want to change that, to? Would you want to bring it down to 2 grand instead of 10?
No, I wouldn't.
10 isn't gonna buy any, or do we have insurance, like if the roof blows off or?
Mhm.
Because what you're
Yep.
gonna do is
Water
you're
goes
actually
up.
gonna move this line basically out of the budget. Or keep it at a low minimal line. You're gonna create a whole different fund, like on, on the back here. Whether it's a prairie dog fund, a building fund,
Can we leave it at that 10,000, but then have it in there that at the end of the year, whatever's not used, that's what gets transferred into that fund for that year? Like instead of having like $1,500 just sitting there to take for capital improvements or for any city hall improvements, you leave it at the $10,000, but with the stipulation at the end of the year, whatever's left is then put into the fund,
So you're saying leave it like it is now, actually?
right?
That's up to you guys.
If that in my mind, that makes sense, but that doesn't mean that actually makes sense.
If you want to keep increasing that account.
If she creates its own fund though, it doesn't mean that you can't use that money if something were to happen.
Right.
So I agree that with Steve that it should,
I think this thing needs its own fund.
it doesn't mean that money can't get spent out of there. It just means
But
it's a
you can
saving plan
still
for it.
create a new fund just to hold that money and
Correct,
still
but
leave this
If
money
we just
here.
call it, if we don't call
You
it like a
can still
building
tax your
improvement fund,
taxpayers here for that
we're
fund.
gonna take that money eventually. We do it all the time. It's
So-
like all of a sudden this happened or that happened. Well, we got
There's
10 grand
extra
of
money
this,
over
and you take
here.
it.
So do you want it left at the 10?
I do.
You have a motion though,
Yep.
right?
We have a motion to designate a building improvement fund for the main building. Of 7,500 and then, relieve the 10,000 on the budget for next year. Any further discussion?
So basically, Anita, just for clarification, that 10,000, you would leave it right there.
Yep.
But then at the bottom, you would add 10,000 to transfers out. And then when you create the new fund, it would be a transfer into that fund. And that's how you would do it.
Got it.
Can you do that transfer in at the end of the year then, Jenny?
Yes.
Or with whatever's not spent?
Yep. So like we always do, the end of year
Yeah, yeah.
transfer approvals, that would
Right.
just be one of them.
That makes perfect sense to me.
Voice vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Was that an opposed aye?
No, I agree with it. I vote yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, motion passed. Any further discussion on the budget?
Did you guys see my
So-
notes on the garbage?
Yeah, I guess is that part of this then, I'm assuming?
Well, you guys were looking at the garbage, last time at the preliminary. With an idea that, our garbage contract is up at the December of 2022. Okay, so next year, they're gonna come with a new contract and tell us we need to pay new rates, right?
Probably.
I'm guessing so, yes. And kind of with that, it just, would there be a reason to really raise the rates, throughout next year? Or plan for that rate increase?
How can you if you
At
don't know what
next
it's gonna
budget.
be? It's gonna go up 13 to 13.55? Or that's what it went
No,
up?
that's where we're at now. Your garbage fund is definitely revenue over expenditure holding its own.
But you don't know what it's gonna be for next year.
No, well, you don't know what it's gonna be at the end of December next year when they come in and say, as of 2023, we're gonna have a new contract. Here's now what you gotta pay. So.
But I mean, at that time, if it's a huge increase, we can increase the garbage.
You would
At any
increase
time
your
after
garbage
that.
rates as of the new year. I would suspect that that would be the way you'd want to do it, so that, people aren't paying for it before it actually happens. Your garbage fund is doing fabulous, from what I can see. Do you not agree, Jenny, on those numbers
Nope,
that
yep.
I put together there?
Yep, I would say the increase could wait till
Mm-hmm.
next year's budget.
I wanted to point out that I looked at that closer.
Is it a 5-year contract?
It is. And normally they break it up, first 2 years and then the second 3 years are Yeah, 2 and 3 is.
So it's 1, 2, and then 3, 4, 5.
Yep. But just so to look towards that next year, we'll be looking at seeing a new contract from them. And then you guys asked about what was covered in the attorneys' rates. And so I pulled that for you too, on what Worthington Schultz gets paid for. $1,000 retainer a month, giving 5.5 hours within that and 175 an hour after that.
That's actually not what it is.
Okay.
The 1,000 is a special retainer to basically keep me available in case something comes up right away. I can handle it right away. And then it's 175 an hour on top of that. So the $1,000 doesn't get the city 5.5 hours.
Oh.
It's just there to say, I don't have to take other cases. So if something comes up, I can handle it right away. I don't have to put it off because I've got that availability.
Okay, that's great clarification, because that was pulled right out of the meeting from March 2020.
Were we supposed to renew this every year just by reading at it? It says like March 2020 and
How it was
How did that-
explained to me, how it was explained to me is that if I felt like there should be any change, I could submit it for budget consideration. But I'm totally fine with how it is now.
Well, normally at election, your primary election, your engineer, your attorney, your auditor, those appointed positions all get reappointed
Right.
or renewed or
Correct,
reallocated.
but
And our ordinances, my appointment is for 2 years. So it would be up March of next year. So I view at that point, I'd have to be reappointed.
So what is the actual, say that again, then how is it actually the
Sure.
1,000? Is
So
it still
the 1,000,
$1,000?
yeah. So there's a couple of different kinds of how you can structure a retainer. You've got an hourly where whatever work I do is whatever the rate is. There's a flat fee, so you pay so much a month and no matter how much work I do. And then there's a special retainer sort of hybrid situation where you say, this is the amount that basically secures my availability, and then any work that I do is billed at an hourly rate on top of that. And that's what we agreed on, because sometimes in municipal work, you need to be available right away.
Right.
So where did these mini minutes come from then? I mean, because that's,
I don't know, I'm not allowed to vote for them, so.
That is exactly what was in the
No,
minutes.
and I wasn't at that
just
meeting,
pulled
so.
I pulled them directly from that meeting, and that's how it was worded.
But that's
So-
how my billing statements have been structured since the very first one I submitted.
So we just have to take out that giving 5.5 hours.
Yeah.
That's not.
Well, that's
how
how it
it's
was in those
calculated.
minutes. I can't take them out, but I'm glad that he clarified that here with us today. Thank you.
I mean, because that equates $962.50.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, is there any way that we can negotiate some, a couple hours into that 1,000 per month? Or is that just your flat retainer fee? I wasn't at the meeting, so
Sure,
Yes, I
that's,
didn't know
that's
that.
how it was structured when I first did it. It's a discussion that I'm willing to have, but my hourly rate would most likely go up given that I've been on the job for a year and a half now. I believe Attorney Hoffert was billing somewhere around 300 an hour. I imagine my rate would be substantially similar given I've been an attorney for about 11, 12 years now, and I've been involved with quite a bit here in the city, so I definitely feel like I've got my sea legs under me.
I guess my 2 cents, since I sat on here for a long time, there were a lot of meetings where months would go by and we never even used the attorney.
Yeah, and I can explain that too. In my interview with, I think at the time he was council president, Councilman Dalby, specifically asked me if I would be present at meetings. So I view it that I was asked to come to meetings.
Next item, Nadine.
Where's that at in the?
I would like to I would like to look into that attorney contract again, just because, I remember I
it's-
wasn't available for that meeting and
I'll
Chuck
say
was in a
it's
San Francisco
not a
airport.
contract.
It's not a contract.
It's
It
just
was,
what we agreed on.
what was those voted minutes that I provided?
Yeah, there's nothing in writing.
Right, but I don't know that the person who made that agreement had the right to, maybe, but.
I just remember.
Nothing
coming-
against you. I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
you're doing a
I'm-
fantastic job.
I remember coming to the council and there was a conversation and then it was like, okay, we'll give you a call. And then I got a call later that night.
The reason this got brought up in the first place is because we're already over budget for this year on what we have on the budget. So we need to adjust that number if we already know it's gonna be more than that next year.
Right, so, I mean, at a $15,000 rate, do you think that that is any kind of
Well, now it's separated out. My understanding is that the,
court separate?
right, there's a court budget and
yep.
like a
We're already
civil
over on the
city
main
budget.
one though.
Yeah, but my understanding is that it was a combined, so it was just evenly split, because I think it's 15 for both. Or it was the same for both.
It's, it is 15 per bowl.
Yeah.
Do you think
So my view is it's
they
30
use,
total.
they use less on the
Yeah.
court side?
So my view is it's 30 total.
Mhm.
So as long as I'm under 30 total for the year, I'm technically under budget. Because, I mean, it doesn't matter where the work needs to be done.
On your side?
Right, but for the budget, it would
Yes,
obviously make
but
a
on
difference
our
because we're talking
side-
about
Yeah, our
work for
side
doing.
Yeah,
a
you
little
see, and like
different.
even there, I mean, there's months that go by on the court side that it's a speeding ticket or this or that, and you really
Right.
necessarily didn't really
And
need
there are
to.
months where we have one court date, there are months
Correct.
we have two.
Right,
But
there
you,
are-
you're not a DUI attorney part of it, right? Or
right,
do you
no,
do-
he's
Well,
not,
I do the DUIs. I'm just not the DUI judge.
right.
Okay.
But I prosecute all misdemeanor offenses and tickets in the city.
So potentially, maybe we lower the court side and increase the general side, or do you just,
I think that'd be fair, but my goal all along has been to stay under 30,000 a year.
Where is the court side one in the
It's under the police department.
under
Under
the
the-
second
yeah,
page,
the police.
attorney fees there? Okay.
Mhm. We're at 7:00 already. I don't feel like we got much accomplished in 30 minutes.
That one's probably still gonna have to get it looked at a little bit further before we finalize this.
See, they're not under by that much either. Honestly.
I'll also say that when I came in 2020, I believe there was a set amount that I was told had been budgeted for the remainder of the year when I came on. And the agreement at that time was no matter how much work I did, it wouldn't exceed that amount. And I forget the number, but it was like 24, 26, somewhere around in there. And I was under it for 2020.
Yep, I remember that.
26,250.
There
Right,
you
it
go.
was right there.
There you go.
So I printed those minutes, or, yeah, copied that printout from the minutes.
I guess be that as it may, I guess this is like the budget meeting, so we just need to decide, the numbers can't go up, they can only go down. We'd have to set up a time to have a meeting to discuss your wages, if that's what we decide to do. So I don't think anybody wants to lower them at this particular time. It's tough to lower them if we don't really know what the contract's going to be.
And that comes in March of 21.
Right. I'd
22.
have to be reappointed in March because under ordinance, my appointment's good for 2 years.
2 years, yeah. It normally happens at election, but yeah.
He could be fired tomorrow.
Yeah,
Correct? I mean, it just, don't appoint this and appoint that. I'm just saying.
yeah.
That's, I mean,
And you
I know
could,
your appointment is that, but we can have a meeting in December and discuss his wages if that's what we want to do.
you could say 10,000 on the police side and 20,000 on the general side and make the numbers look sweeter.
But do we, still is that, do we need that much if we're doing 175 an hour?
If there's a meeting after this about it, I can put together some data and numbers about what my billing statements have been and in
That would
what
be
areas.
great. That's what I would like to see is the
Yeah, I
actual
can do
billing
that.
statement.
I can do
myself.
that. Moving on, Anita. Well, it's 7. We gotta start. the
Right.
meeting.
I'm good with making these, few changes here, except for that Blue Cross. What do you guys think that you want to do
Yeah, I
with that?
wish we would talk about that first.
Yep, I pushed it out first. I didn't see you guys make a
I know.
action on it.
Nobody was Nobody was picking up what you were laying down there.
So yeah, it's, like I said, it's less than $2,000. I mean, we could pull a 22 transfer from the COVID instead of 20 and cover it for the minute and let you guys ponder on it some more.
That makes the most sense to me, like a quick fix, but I don't
It's a
know.
quick fix until the next time we meet.
I would agree.
Yes.
What do you got, AJ?
Schedule C under other capital credit funds under police department, 601, 602, 603, utility truck, jetter, back and fire road under police, not public works.
They're not. They're under the capital equipment fund.
They're under the police department. That's all I'm asking.
Oh, I'm sure that was just an error, but yes.
It shouldn't be police department heading. No, okay. I can change that heading, can I not, Jenny? It doesn't need to say police department, does it?
The police department one would stay the same. You would just move those 3 items down
Yeah,
to
they
the
just
highways
need to
and
move the-
streets.
Oh, just move to 4310.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, AJ, for that catch.
And there was something in here as far as the garbage contract, as far as whether we were paying the bill or park board or something with
Oh,
getting
yeah.
a smaller totes or something. I guess I can't find that part.
We'll
now.
talk about that, I think, in the general meeting, if
Okay.
that's okay.
Yep.
Okay,
And then what do you want to do with this contract for the rugs?
we're
Get rid
locked
of it.
into it, so it's just
We'll talk about that
information
later.
for you.
Okay.
They come 3 times a month?
They come way too much.
Yeah.
You're
they
locked
do.
in till 2023?
Yeah.
Oh, smokes.
Can you ask them not to come but
I do want to check into, maybe reducing it somehow. Just if we can do something, because it's kind of a dumb deal. We
They come
could've-
every week?
They come every other week. Yeah, sometimes 3 times a month then. It just seems crazy. We could have bought rugs, 100 times over already, but,
Or just vacuumed them?
and vacuumed them and cleaned them. Yep. So,
In the final budget, you said October 10th,
yep.
so we actually can look at it one more time on like the 4th.
Yes, and so if Andrew wants to put together some data,
Well, I don't even think we want to do it then. I mean, I think someone would need to make a motion at a meeting to give you 30 days to talk about your wages, and then if somebody wants to discuss it, we discuss it. But unless nobody wants to make that motion,
I'll also say on October 4, I'll be in a jury trial in Devil's Lake. I don't know what time I'm gonna be back, so I might be late to
even
that
better.
meeting.
Guess
I
we
might
will
be,
do it then, huh?
I might be late for that meeting.
While
I have
you're
no
not
problem
here-
appearing by phone.
while you're not here.
We're running over time. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
A motion by Twyla, second. Second by Aiden. All in favor?
Aye.
This meeting's adjourned.
okay.